Welcome to FP Executive. I'm joined today by Janice Atwood-Petkovski, who is the Commissioner of Legal and Administrative Services for the City of Vaughan in Ontario. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you joining us today. I know that city business is always very busy, but you found time to go to the Schulich School of Business in their executive education program. In fact, Vaughan has a partnership with Schulich, if I understand correctly.
Yes, actually, we found a way to get Schulich to deliver their program to our staff in a way that would accommodate our needs, and which is why I think Schulich worked so well for us. We were looking for a way to provide a bit of leadership training to our management group, to our senior management and our management level directors, and to do it in a way that would be meaningful to our team building needs.
I see, okay.
And I had the opportunity to meet with Tom Nasu of Schulich in the summer of 2006, and we talked about the program that they have, and I was somewhat familiar with the kinds of things that executive programs offer. I was more familiar with the programs where executives go away for a couple of weeks and they're basically off-site and almost out of contact for a couple of weeks. And I know those are good programs for the kinds of things that are needed. But we really wanted to do something that would not only be very cost-effective for us, keep the costs down because we couldn't afford to send away large numbers of our executives. We also wanted something that would be delivered on-site to us. I went over and took a look at the Schulich facility at the York University campus, and it's a beautiful facility, but it's wouldn't be as cost-effective for us. Also, we were able to get Schulich to deliver us a program where the class was basically primarily our staff. The first year through, I believe we contacted a couple of adjoining municipalities to offer 2 or 3 seats to some of their staff, but we had basically about 20 of our own staff in the first class.
So this was a group learning experience for your own teams, and Schulich brought the learning to your offices?
They brought it to, we set it up in one of our community center multi-purpose rooms, big meeting room, and we provided our own basically, coffee and muffin facilities. And so we really kept our costs down. In that way, we were able to put large numbers of our commissioners, directors, and managers through in pretty short order. We had, I believe the first year we had 20 of our staff go through it, and the second year about 25, and we have another, I think, maybe about 15 this year. We are putting through, we have a waiting list.
Oh, really?
So there's a lot of, it's very popular. And I think a couple of the reasons that we really wanted to team up with Schulich is because Schulich has a prestige. It has a certain aura. People recognize the name, but they were willing to accommodate our needs. And we wanted to achieve something that was a real team-building exercise where you develop sort of a common understanding of the concepts, and all boats rise together. We all learn some of the performance management techniques together. We develop the same kind of strategic language together.
Can you speak to what was learned in the classroom, or what is being taught in the classroom? Because people often think executive education, they think of big corporations and so forth, and it may come as a surprise to some of our viewers that in fact municipalities can also benefit from executive education. What was taught in the classroom?
I think there's a multitude of concepts that are taught, but I think some of the primary concepts are about how you manage performance, how you goal set, how you establish and agree on measurements for those, how you revisit. Those are typical performance management, really building blocks that everybody at every level has to have a bit of an understanding of. For example, in any organization of any size, you're going to do some performance appraisal, some performance review. And in order to do that, you have to have sort of a shared language around what are we trying to achieve? How does our business plan roll into that? How do what do my objectives have to do with the goals of the organization? So it really helps to have everybody who's in a management capacity understand some of those basic building blocks. That's one of the aspects that they teach. Other things, for example, have to do with the importance of consultation. We're very much a customer-driven organization. Our customers are our constituents, and our elected officials are responsive to the constituents, and they require us to have processes and mechanisms that respond. And in Vaughan, we respond very promptly. We're a very high service level organization. So we need to understand the need for consultation to understand what those needs are. I mean, we need to, when we're looking at, for example, developing a new process, or we've just gone through a ward boundary review, for example, when we go through a review of our sign bylaw or the pesticides, we need to know, how do we go about consulting on this? Are we just consulting with each other? Do we just talk to the other departments? Even getting out of our silos is a good thing, but beyond that, we've got a public, we've got industries. We need to establish what those building blocks of consultation are. And Schulich has a whole part of the program that's around the need to consult and some of the case studies that they offer in the
so they did offer you case studies.
Oh, yes.
Did they have municipal case studies? Or?
They did. We had specifically... they had specifically provided us with a number of municipal case studies from American jurisdictions and Canadian, and very much on point with what we do and how we need to be cost effective, and the fact that we're under a lot of public scrutiny and demand, and those kinds of things are somewhat unique, I think, to the public sector.
Of course, yes. Now, the case studies from other jurisdictions, other municipalities, what specifically do you remember, sort of did you have an aha moment when you were reading any of these case studies, or did you recognize familiar patterns?
Well, I would say more than an aha moment, it was more of a recognition that we're not in this alone. We're going through very much what everybody's going through. I mean, sometimes I think when you get into your own world, you feel that this is just the way it is in this part of the world. But no, it's like this really throughout all of the public sector. It's there's a lot of questioning. There's a lot of demand for public involvement, for transparency. There's a high demand for service, and yet there's a great lack of willingness to continually really pay for the services that are demanded. So there's always a bit of a conundrum and a need for really getting the most that we can out of the staff we have and the processes we have. Sometimes that requires a bit of a stepping back and reviewing things to determine, can we do this better? Can we do it a little more cost effectively? And to do that, who do we need to talk to? Well, we need to talk to the people we're delivering the service to, but we also need to talk to the people who deliver that service. How
has the program helped, in your opinion, in terms of communication between the civil service in the city and the elected representatives? Do you think it's helped improve the understanding between the two in terms of the pressures on each other and that sort of thing?
I think that it's helped staff to be able to better articulate some of the pressure points to elected officials, and it helps us to respond in a more, I think, cohesive manner to those demands. It's interesting you mention, the elected officials saw this program that we were rolling out because we had to get budgeting for it, so they had to get council approval. And they saw this as a bit of an opportunity for some of them to maybe become involved and take some of this to upgrade their education and their knowledge. It's really, continuous learning.
Of course.
And Schulich has actually indicated that they're going to design a shorter, because this is a 15-day program, effectively 3 blocks of 5 days each. Elected officials, even more so than the public service, cannot afford that kind of time commitment in a continuous education. So I believe Schulich is actually designing a 4 or 5 day program just for elected officials.
Interesting. You mentioned, and maybe this would be the last point, about customer contact, that is with constituents, and I think one of the sectors of government that people contact most regularly is their local city, municipality. Has it changed the way that you communicate with the residents of Vaughan, do you think?
I think it certainly has changed the way a lot of us interact with the constituents. I think we try to be much more inclusive at the front end of initiatives. Where, I think historically, and I've been in the public sector for a number of years, there's been a bit of an evolution. Historically, the interaction was at the tail end. Here's what we've decided to do for you. I think now there's an expectation that the interaction really starts very early on, so that you approach the constituents with, here's something we hear that you would like us to do. Tell us how we can best achieve this. And that starts very early on. So that's affected. I think Schulich has been really helpful in assisting us to think in those terms.
Interesting. Well, it sounds like the executive education program at Schulich Municipal Management in particular has helped to give the people of Vaughan a voice more so in the way their city is managed, and obviously it's built a focus amongst the civil servants as well. So, Janice, thank you very much for sharing your story with me. This was very interesting. Thank you again.
Well, thank you for having me.